Welcome to The Preferred List, a podcast about the people behind the best wedding days. I'm James, a wedding filmmaker. I've spent years in the industry working alongside incredible vendors, and this show is all about real conversations with the ones who make it happen. Whether you're a vendor or a couple, you'll get honest insight, good stories, and maybe a little inspiration along the way. Let's meet today's wedding vendor. Hey Taryn, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad to have you on, and y'all don't know this. I'm just so glad to have you on, and I'm excited to pick your brain on all things planning, coordination, and all of that. But before we do, we're here at Hazelwood Weddings. Hazelwood Weddings is a modern wedding venue in New Oxford, Pennsylvania, specializing in weddings, micro-weddings, and elopements with easy access to Gettysburg, York, Lancaster, and Baltimore. It's built specifically for weddings, and you'll find an intentional variety of bright open spaces, bathed in natural light and surrounded by stunning woodland views. Hazelwood is the perfect backdrop for your day and an even better backdrop for your photos. And I know you know Kate very well. It's just such a joy to be around, and the space here is just, it's so nice.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's one of our favorite places.
And I read the bathed in natural light, and you can see from our camera over here, you can see the natural light that hits into this space here, the reception space. But Taryn, thanks for being on.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah. So Taryn, you run Blake Events.
Correct.
And I know you work very closely with Kate here at Hazelwood. But take me back to where Blake Events started for you.
So it's actually funny because I feel like when people meet wedding planners, the story that you typically hear over and over is that, oh, I got into this because I really loved planning my own wedding. And that is not my story. I fell into this completely by accident. So I actually spent my entire 20s climbing the corporate ladder. And I was the director of marketing for two multi-million-dollar firms, heavily focused on that career. But by nature of doing that job, since I was 21 or 22, people would always say, oh, you do marketing. Can you help me with this event? Or, I'd get the phone call. I'm working on this for my job, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Could you help me?
Yeah.
I was like, sure, why not? One of my husband's coworkers at the time was getting married. And the closer they got to their wedding, the more they realized their venue wasn't necessarily going to do all the things that they thought they were going to do, which still happens to this day.
I was going to say, that's probably still the case in a lot of places.
And so somehow my name was thrown out there of hey, could your fiance at the time actually come and help us? And I said, sure, I can figure something out. So I went and coordinated, we're going to put that loosely, coordinated their wedding, and just so happened to be sitting at a guest table with another couple who was engaged. And they looked at us over dinner and said, whatever you did for them, could you do for us?
I love that.
And I was like, sure. At the time we were almost newly married, saving for a house, all those things. And I thought, well, I could make, some extra money. So they were my first official client. I charged them $250 and I bought my own hotel rooms. So,
which just probably spent all the $250.
Yes. But in this industry, I feel like you get what you pay for, and they probably got that at the time because we were guessing along the way.
Yeah.
But that's really where my career started. I connected with an amazing, well-known DJ, actually, DJ Kopech. At that very first wedding, he is now the official DJ for Under Armour and the Baltimore Ravens. You can catch him in the Perch.
Casual,
on Sundays.
Yeah.
He was on Ellen during the COVID shutdown. His career has blossomed. But the chance encounter with him, and then connecting me with a couple other couples as we went, started a very slow growth over the next few years. And it was just me. And then it was, me and a family member, me and a best friend. And I grew super organically, doing maybe 9 or 10 weddings every year, really just earning my stripes, figuring things out. And people didn't ever really realize that I wasn't doing it full time. It was my lives were very separate. And even to this day, when people find out that I've only been full time since 2021, it's mind blowing. But in 2018, I actually was surprised waking up one morning and I found myself in a Forbes feature of 7 entrepreneurs that were revolutionizing the event industry. And that was pretty much the catalyst for what turned my career.
Yeah, that's
So when
awesome.
I say that I really ended up here by accident, I mean it was accident. It was a lot of hard work, a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that set things in motion.
It's so cool to see like what was a seemingly innocent like, "Hey, could you help us?" to that next like seemingly innocent like, "Oh, hey, that what you did here, like could you do that for us?" And now here you are with like a full team,
Yeah,
been full time for like 4 years now,
yeah.
but been doing like events for several other years. Uh, how much has changed over that time frame?
A lot has changed. So back, when I was just doing this as a side gig, like I said, I was really focused on my full time career. I had 2 kids. I got married. We'd moved a few times, and 10 weddings a year up until that point. And then in 2019, I actually had some pretty serious health issues. And came home one day and told my husband that I was never going to step foot in a cubicle ever again. Um,
Yeah, it's some
I-
perspective, and it
yeah,
just shifted for you.
and, the fear was gone. I feel like there's so many people who want to become an entrepreneur or work for themselves or try something new. And we're all just stuck in that fear of what if? What's going to happen when we get to, the other side? We get both feet out the door. And at that point, I didn't care. And I knew that I was really good at what I was doing and the potential was there. And so we put a plan in motion and I, decided to quit my job in 2020. not
Perfect timing.
not the year to do that. But I used that period really as the slingshot. So bookings were down in 2020, but we all know what happened in 2021 when
Yeah,
things went wild. And I was really primed and ready to run. And so we went from, like I said, 9 to 10 weddings a year, just me, maybe an assistant, to at our biggest, we have a team of 15 right now, and we'll
that's
do
crazy.
about 170, 180 events every season.
That's amazing.
Yeah, in 4 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, I'm thinking of like 4 different questions all at the same time, but God, 15 people. How do you find how do you find the right people? Because
It's
and I'm asking that from a place of like it's you're never gonna find a Taryn
I have a
who
Danielle though, who's practically
okay,
me. So
okay. So Danielle's the close second,
yeah,
but like there's never gonna be a Taryn who's the one that was at that first wedding, at that second wedding,
hmm
starting to see the stuff working, got the connections and got it to where it is and have the love and passion for Blake events that you do.
yeah,
But you gotta like if you're gonna grow, like you gotta spread out and delegate and you can only do so many weddings or so many events yourself.
yeah.
Like how do you find the Danielles of the world? I'll give Danielle a huge shout
I know,
out.
right? She'll love that. She much prefers to be the person behind the scenes, and was really glad that I didn't make her come along
Oh,
today.
she totally could have.
Yeah. Hiring is a process. I will say that, and it's when people. I think everybody sort of gets to that point in their business when you start to think about. Do I want to bring somebody else onto my team or do I want to keep doing this as a solopreneur? And it's truly not as easy as just adding another body
Yeah.
onto your team. Um, I really am grateful that I had the corporate background that I did because I run this business like I ran a $10 million corporate marketing department. We have, standard operating procedures. We have all of the software. Everything is documented. Um,
Gotta love a good
it's
SOP.
oh, but it's the only way that things work when
Yeah.
you grow as big as we grow. Because I think the biggest thing is I have to be repeatable, but I personally can't be at every event,
Yeah.
but my processes and the way that we run the business and the way that we treat our clients and the things that we do for our vendors are all things that can be repeatable. And that's really what I focus on. I can teach anybody how to plan a really, really good wedding. I can't change who you are as a person. So I hire for a great personality, someone who's a go-getter, somebody who, believes in the power of the team, who really sees that overall mission and is just a genuinely good human, and I can teach you
Yeah.
the rest.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's really what I look for.
Was there I'm just like thinking back to the 2018, 2019 you, or maybe even the 2020 you that like took the bet on yourself and, you're like, I'm going to do this. Did you feel like you made that move? Because I'm sure there's people listening, vendors that are like, I don't know if I'm ready for full time. Like, I don't know if am I gonna flop? Like, did you have like the market research done to show like, hey, if I went full time, I could do more and make up the extra that I needed to make financially? Or was it like you just were so passionate about it, you're like, I'm just gonna figure it out?
Probably a little bit of both. I mean, I ran the numbers as much as you can run the numbers, but
Yeah.
this industry is one of ups and downs, and you don't really know what's going to come. But I knew I wasn't going to quit at that point.
Yeah.
And I think for me, you can either try something and fail and redirect, which I still fail all the time in this business. And it's all just a series of redirections to, the next success. Or you can live the rest of your life wondering, what if? And I was just really at a point in my life where I didn't want to do the what if anymore. And I was ready to jump in and see what I could do. And it's been the best decision that I've ever made. And
Yeah.
if there's one thing I could say to any vendor listening, if you still have a foot in a corporate world, but that thought is always in the back of your mind, just try it.
Yeah.
Just get a mentor, find, great masterminds or whatever you want to be a part of. There is space for you. The industry is saturated, but there's plenty of work to go around. You just have to work for it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one of the bigger things that you took? Because it sounds like you have experience from your corporate type job
Hmm.
that helps you run events successfully. What are the things that you took from that corporate job to help you? I know you had systems and stuff, but just
Hmm.
like almost more of like the day to day, like actually putting the event on.
Yeah. So I worked in two very male driven industries. I worked in the insurance industry and the construction industry, always in a marketing role, but still very male driven industries. And I'm not knocking on any of the dudes out there, but if you've spent a lot of time around lifelong construction workers,
Yeah.
you learn a little bit of a tenacity, and grit. Um, not much scares me. I'm not afraid to take risks and take chances. Um, and I think I came into it with a really good understanding that it was never going to look or feel linear because my
Mm,
career wasn't linear in any way. There were peaks and valleys there. And I got to see that from a corporate level that those businesses, did this. I couldn't come into this and think that my business was always going to do this.
just the
It,
up and up.
it,
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. It's not real. So just, having I think, a realistic expectation of what it was going to look like, but also watching other entrepreneurs in this space and out of this space. How did they move? What were they doing? Where were they putting themselves? And just, I like to say my team works in the day to day. I'm working 3 years ahead of right now.
Mm.
That's where my brain is.
You're a business minded person.
I am. It's wild. Um, I would have never, ever in a million years, if people would have said, "You're going to own a wedding planning business one day," I would have,
But
no,
not only that though,
but
you're
I love it.
also like you're sitting here saying, and I believe it. I'm bought in. You're like, I'm looking 3 years ahead, and you have a full team who's counting on you to do that.
Oh, there is no pressure like knowing you are paying someone else's bills.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're scared to make the leap into having to pay your own bills, try paying 5 other people's full time, and the rest are part time. But it's a
Yeah,
lot.
but still, that's a huge commitment for them to now be betting on you to come through.
Hmm.
Um, what is it about weddings, like planning, day of coordination, like what is it about weddings that you just love enough to be like, let's be doing this, but like
Yeah,
be doing it at the scale that you're doing it at?
yeah. Um, and it's funny because early on, I probably wouldn't have given you the same answer that I would give you now. Um, I love the fact that I feel like everything that I've done in my career, I'm always building something, right? Whether it be, building this business or, putting all of the pieces together for a wedding. I love problem solving, and that's what weddings are. It's a whole lot of problems that need to be
Yeah.
solved. Even if it feels very smooth, it's still puzzle
Behind the
pieces.
scenes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
puzzle pieces in the background. So I love that. I love that every day is different. I truly, the things that I have done in my career or experienced, You would never believe. I don't get bored. I get to travel. And then it's the people, and I'm sure everybody says, oh, it's the people we've, listen, sometimes it's not the people. Okay. Sometimes the people are the ones that make you consider getting out of this business.
Yeah.
But in our role, I think specifically, and probably with things, that you get to do in video and photographers for sure, we're the ones that are really let into those more intimate pieces
Yeah.
of our clients' lives. And that's the part that surprised the hell out of me when I got into this business. Sorry, am I allowed to curse on your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, you know, Couples who were planning their wedding while one of them, was diagnosed with cancer, or, a couple who, they lose a parent, sometimes two, right before their wedding, and we're helping them navigate that process. People who welcome babies, or, just whatever it is. We've really been brought into people's lives in a way that I never expected, and those are the ones that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept, and I think about it all the time. It's like we're jumping in to a family dynamic or a friend
Mhm.
dynamic or both, and we're like just inserted into that at one of the biggest days of that couple's lives. It's so
Yeah.
interesting.
And it's, this concept that, I think when people think of weddings, they think this is the happiest day of their life. And it very well might be, but it can also come with a lot of sadness,
Yeah.
or, dealing with grief, or whatever it might be, that's sort of right alongside of that happiness. Um, and those are just things that I never thought I would experience until I got into this industry, sort of in the depths that we are.
Yeah. How different, and maybe not like the first or second one, but how different were those early weddings that you planned and coordinated for compared to like what you're doing now?
I'm sure they were a shit show. I mean, if we're being honest. Um, I'm glad that I have seen this industry from absolutely every angle, right? Um, I've done, the full DIY, very small events where, I was charging $250. Now, we're working on weddings that are tipping up. We're edging closer to the $500,000 mark every year that goes on. And I'm making a ton more money doing it too. But um, I've been able to see it from all sides and kind of watch my career grow through every level of the industry. But very different price points, different expectations of the market in general,
Mm,
have changed. The way that social media just influences the wedding industry and different trends. I mean, none of that existed when I did this 15 years ago.
yeah. Yeah, that's gotta be like a shock. I mean, if you if there was a way to like plot back and then plot back here, it'd be like, whoa, that's
Yeah.
just so different.
This is why I call myself the grandma of the wedding
Yeah.
industry, because I'm like, I've been around so long. I remember
I
when,
remember
like,
back in my
I'm
day.
telling you,
Yeah.
like, we weren't putting things on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's fun.
How you said something about expectations. I'm curious if you could just unpack like how have those expectations on you or from the couple,
Uh, all
other
around.
vendors?
I mean, weddings are always a high stakes event. It's funny when I talk to people about my job. I'm like, you do realize I get one day to get this right.
Yeah.
Like if I used to make a mistake corporately, we could try again. We don't get to try again in what we do. So it's always been very high stakes. But I think as weddings have gotten more expensive, weddings have gotten more commercialized, weddings
Mm,
have gotten, you know, to a point where, they are being shared across social media. They are, people are trying to get featured. Vendors themselves are looking for the next big break.
yeah.
Um, it's just become a lot more high stakes, and the expectations have gone up a lot.
Like on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. On the wedding
Maybe
vendors,
not
I
cool.
think, as
I
a
don't know.
whole. I know, right?
I said cool, and I'm like, that's probably not cool.
No. But I love it because then at the end of the day, you're like, "Oh, we freaking nailed it.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so,
Some
it's
of
so
the
fun.
pressure on the back end leads you to maybe a different sort of satisfaction of like stamp of approval. Like that went well,
Yeah.
even under the pressure.
Yeah.
Like it went well.
I mean, I'm glad that I'm not cutting my teeth as a wedding vendor right now. I'm glad that I had time to learn and grow because I don't stress on wedding days. And
Yeah.
people say that to us all the time. They're like, "You guys are never worried." I'm like,
Yeah. Don't
Nope,
need to be.
nope. I've lived this a
Grandma's
hundred
got
times
it.
over." Grandma's.
I'm not gonna be able to think
I'm
of you other than a wedding grandma.
I'm going to get a shirt now that says "Grandma's got it," and I'm
Yeah.
just gonna wear it on the wedding
Grandma's
day.
got it. G-
The best
like
thing to come out of
GGI.
this podcast
Grandma's got
is,
it.
is
GGI.
what we're doing.
Yeah. Just let me in on the merch. If you get a cut of the merch, just let
Right.
me in. I just want a couple shirts.
I love it.
uh, GGI. Can you explain uh, part of it being like the different services that you guys offer, but even just like breaking down? I love asking planners like to just explain the different things like
Hmm.
day of coordinating, planning, full service planning. The venue's like, oh, well, couple, we have coordination. It's like, well, the venue owner being around to turn the lights on and off is not, let's maybe not call that
Yeah.
coordination. So if like give us the breakdown on like the stuff that you guys do, but also like just give us the general breakdown, help us like all understand
Yeah.
the things.
It's probably one of the harder things in this industry because every planner does things a little bit differently. We personally don't offer day of coordination. I don't want to learn everything there is to learn about your wedding in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that to myself. Um, so I would say big buckets for Blake events are 90-day coordination, partial planning, and full service. 90-day coordination, I'm going to set you up with everything that you need to plan your wedding on your own. You're going to get a budget spreadsheet, you're going to get vendor recommendations, you're going to get a planning to do list. So you're going to have all of those resources to do the planning on your own. And then we're going to come in 90 days out and really tie up all of the loose ends and make sure that your wedding day comes to life the way that you want it. It's great for couples who feel really confident in the planning process. Maybe you're at a venue where they have a lot of, on-site inclusions. There's venues now that do have, in-house catering, in-house
Mm.
florist, all that good stuff. Partial planning, we're going to come along beside you for the entirety of your journey. So we're not planning your wedding for you, but we're planning your wedding with you. We are going to talk through every vendor category. We're going to break down that budget. We're going to figure out, is this realistic or not realistic? We're going to talk through, here's 5 different florist proposals. Here's what I see as a planner versus what you see as a couple, which is usually just the price tag, and how this is actually going to shake out on your wedding day. And so it's kind of lather, rinse, repeat that process, but you have us to be your guide, to be your scapegoat, to be whatever you need us to be as you are planning your wedding. And then, of course, we're going to come in at the end and make sure that it all goes the way it's supposed to. Full service, highest tier package, that's the one where we are going to plan your wedding start to finish. Obviously, with your input, with your budget in mind, you still get a say in everything that we're doing. It's not like we take control and you just show up on your wedding day, although I've done that once and it was awesome. Um, we're going to have the conversations,
Yeah.
but the couple, you don't have to set up a wedding, email address because you're not the one sending the inquiries and chasing down vendors and worrying about when your payments are due or, figuring out design details. We're going to do it all on your behalf. And then, you're going to show up and have this beautiful wedding day that you didn't have to stress one bit over. So that's our process. Um, every planner has a little bit of a different iteration. And I think one of the benefits of working with us is that we've done 700 weddings at this point. I can make you a package, anything that you want, right? If you want a 90-day coordination package, but you want to add design services and you want to talk to me 3 different times throughout your planning journey, I'll give you that collection, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do whatever makes you feel like it's the perfect thing for you, as long as it still works for us. Because at the end of the day, I think, I never want to forget that we are the experts in this and we know what's going to work. So as long as we can find a happy medium between the two, I'm also super flexible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of trust that you need to have as the couple to the vendor. And if they give you that trust, then you're able to do what you're setting out to do.
Yeah, yeah. Biggest thing, I mean, no matter what package any couple wants, my bit of advice when it comes to planning is hire your planner first, especially if you think you're going to want a partial or a full service package. Hire your planner first. I think a lot of people think that they need to hire the planner first so that you could talk through the vision or the budget. And yeah, those are big things, you want to hire your planner first because we're the ones that know all of the ins and outs of the industry.
Yeah.
I can tell you who's considering closing their business, who has not been performing well in the past 12 months, who, what venue has staff that turns over every 30 days because nobody wants to work there. I mean, there are venues that we've worked at that I have had 4 or 5 different point of contacts in a year
Yeah.
of
Which is
planning there.
crazy.
Couples don't want that.
Yeah.
Um, there's just all these different things that we get to see because we're living it day in and day out that I'm not afraid to tell my client, right? You are paying me for
Yeah.
my insight and advice,
For
and
sure.
I want to save you a headache down the line, and I want to save me a headache down
Well,
the
and the
line.
headache that you would get is going to come back on Blake Events eventually.
I mean, I'm going to have to deal with it
But
one day, but
I'm
yeah,
just saying, like, if you're not gonna say, "Hey, go book this photographer," unless you are willing to stake Blake Events on that photographer doing
yes.
the job that they say that they're gonna do in the way that they're gonna do it.
Yeah. And it's wild. I think things that couples just don't think about, like there are venues and vendors that exist that have perfect 5-star reviews online. But I've seen the contracts and I know it's because there's a clause in there that says that no matter what happens, the couple's not allowed to leave a negative review.
Nuh-uh.
Uh-huh. There's vendors who
Who does? You don't
who
have to
will
say names.
nope, I
Who
won't
does that?
become a Blake Events client and I'll tell you. Um, there are
Yeah,
vendors
I'm gonna become a client just to figure out.
who and it's when I see things like that, oh trust me,
That's
I've got a file
crazy.
folder in the cloud that I'm like, we're gonna
Y'all,
collect.
if you're a vendor, you shouldn't be needing that in your contract.
I don't know that it could legally be upheld.
Probably not.
But I think it scares couples
Oh,
enough
for sure.
that because there's like a monetary charge attached to it that you sign off on in the contract.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Their vendors, if there's a problem, they'll be paid back in full to take a negative review down. So couples are seeing, sunshine and rainbows when you're looking at reviews,
Yeah.
but that's not the real
Man, because
story.
that's even like what I've heard from a lot of people on the podcast is like, hey, check the reviews, see what people are saying about them. Is there is there a way, and I know the answer is like to get a planner, but even for the couples that are out there, like, well, we've already like planned half our wedding. We're just trying to put the pieces together with a couple more vendors. Like, how can we make sure that we're not getting the behind the scenes not so great vendor?
Yeah.
Like, how do they navigate that?
I would not, I mean, obviously check review sites. Go into, regional Facebook groups. Just search and see if your vendor's been name dropped in there. Reddit is also a huge one, especially as you go up in budget.
Mm,
There are specific, it's called big budget brides, and there's other things on Reddit. There's a lot of people who get name dropped in there if there are problems, but a lot of it too. If you have a vendor that's already on your team that you really trust, go to them. Ask your photographer, ask your videographer, ask your venue if you love that person. Who does a great job? Some people are going to be an open book, some people might not.
yeah,
Um,
but it doesn't hurt to
it
ask.
doesn't hurt to ask.
And like I said before, I'm not gonna say a person, even as a a lowly videographer, because we usually are booked like way later than a lot of other people. But I'm not gonna say like a DJ, for example, even to a friend of mine that I don't absolutely love and that I don't think can put on a crazy good party.
Yeah.
Because as a vendor, like you stake a little bit of your reputation on these people that you're putting out there. So if there is a list as a couple, you have to imagine that the list is curated in a very specific way.
90% of the time.
Okay.
Some lists are pay to play.
Okay.
Not all are based on true experience. Some are pay to play. I've been on the recipient of those emails that say, hey, we're a new venue and we're trying to curate a vendor list. Do you want to pay $250 to be on it?
Like,
Y-
no.
you don't know me.
Yeah.
I could be terrible. Um, Planner lists, I would say, are pretty legit. And again, I'm not trying to paint a picture of doom and gloom.
No, but I think it's really important for couples to know this going
Yes.
in so they're not like duped.
Yeah.
Because that'd be the worst thing.
It's the part of the industry that I feel like people just don't want to stick their neck out on the line and talk about it. But I've been around forever. You know what I mean? Like, I think these are the conversations that we do need to have.
Yeah, grandma's got it.
Grandma's got it. Because on the flip side, your planner is also going to be the person that is going to give you the best of the best. I
Yeah.
might know all the crap stuff that goes on in the industry, but I can also tell you the venues that are tried and true and are going to take care of everything that you need.
For
The
sure.
vendors who I don't have to worry, they are going to show up on that wedding day. I don't care
Yep.
what's
They'll be
happening.
early. They'll have
Yeah.
all the stuff. Hardly
Yes.
any
So you're
questions.
going to get the best,
Yeah.
but we're also going to be very real with you.
It almost reminds me of like the iceberg.
Yeah.
Like below the surface, you got all the stuff, all the kind of crap that you've like worked through. It's like, okay, we know that, but we have the very nice like top layer that just is like cream of the crop.
Yeah.
How do you personally get that list, if it's a list or if it's just a like I know these people for whatever reason here or there. I've worked with them
Mhm.
probably before, but how are you getting those people kind of curated on your list that you're sharing with couples?
So 99.9% of our list is people that we have personally worked with. I will leave that other 0.1% for people who come very highly recommended if they fill, sort of a
Mm,
niche
yeah,
that I don't have covered. Um, and that could be a little bit of anything. I might see another planner friend of mine who works with a vendor that I think, oh my gosh, I don't have anybody who's this specific style or this
it
specific
can even
price
just be
point.
like a style of florals that maybe your go-to
Yes.
people just don't really do that as
Yep.
much. Just to give someone an example of what that might
Yes.
be.
Yeah. So it might be I'm even thinking, from a photo or video perspective. If I start to see somebody who's editing something in a different way, and I think, oh, one of my clients might really love that, but I don't have anybody on my list right now
That does that.
that does that, I will reach out to the planner friend or whomever and get their personal recommendation so I at least feel good enough about putting that name out there. Um, but yeah, everybody else is a tried and true. And my list turns pretty often. So, I mean, just 2 weekends ago, one of my planners was actually here, worked with a DJ for the first time, and immediately messaged me afterwards and said, great company, responsive, printed our schedule, had the whole thing, would
Love it.
definitely recommend. So they go on the list. Alternately, had an experience this past weekend where somebody wasn't so great and actually said, don't ever invite me back to this venue.
Hmm.
No, okay, right off the list you go.
Yes,
You
you
know?
self-selected.
Yes, you did. You have removed yourself
Yeah.
from the equation.
But it seems like you're having personally good experiences. You know they're gonna show up for the couple.
Yes.
Um,
90% of this industry is phenomenal.
yeah,
But just like any other industry, you're going to have, the 10% that are the bad eggs, but you don't want to be the couple that's hinging your wedding day on ending up with that.
yeah, for sure. Could you give me a breakdown, kind of going back a little bit to the different types of planning services that you have? If a couple is listening, or even a vendor is listening who doesn't know much about planning, what types of couples thrive with the 90 day? What types of couples thrive with like the partial planning and then like the full planning?
Mhm. Partial planning, I'm going to jump ahead and start there because partial planning is the sweet spot. Partial planning can work for any couple, in my opinion. It's the one that is going to, again, give you a guided resource the entire way through your planning. You're going to get to pick our brains on absolutely everything. You're probably going to end up saving money, making great decisions, feeling super confident, not being stressed. Um, and it's going to really let you in the driver's seat still as the couple. If you're one that's like, I want to plan my wedding, partial planning is the space for you. 90 day is, I would say, for the couples who decide that they want a planner further along in the process, or you have a venue that is a little bit more all inclusive of the things that you're looking for, or a lot of times, I would say if you work in this industry, but most people who work in this industry actually do hire us for higher level packages because they know
They
they know
know
they
what
want
they're
to.
getting. Yeah.
um, so 90 day, again, if you really didn't think you needed somebody and then you get to that point and you're like, I really do, 90 days better than nothing,
Yeah.
for sure.
Because you're also getting in all of these like the day of
Yep.
stuff.
Correct. Everything for, day of. Full service, we find, for our couples who are just really busy. We work with a lot of attorneys, we work with a lot of doctors, or people who are just like, you know what? We don't, we want to enjoy all the good stuff, and I don't want to do any of the other stuff. I don't want to answer emails. I don't want to do, the vendor interviews. I don't want to track my payments. I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
Um, so we do it for them. And it's a very, white glove experience, but that's not going to be the best fit for a lot of couples. Um, it certainly is for some, but the partial planning that is where I would funnel people all day long. I'm a terrible salesperson because I will talk people
Yeah.
out
Don't buy the
of full
expensive thing.
service
Yeah.
to get into partial planning if that's what I think is going to fit them better. Just, picking up on cues of how involved they want to be.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think it seems like that's the linchpin more than anything between the partial and full is like, do you want to do a lot or do you want to do nothing? The 90-day to me feels like either oops, we're in over our head and we need some help, or it's just like, I just think we want to have this a little bit more organized than what we have it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm thinking of the couple that is in that like, oh, we're in over our head. What are normally the things that they're underestimating in the planning process or that get overlooked until it's like late now and it's like, oh gosh, we need to figure this out?
Yeah. I think people get really excited about the idea of, getting on Instagram and Pinterest and finding vendors they love and even getting vendors under contract. That's the fun stuff. Those are the dopamine hits when you're like, found a great photographer, booked this, you're checking things off the to-do list. Then as we start to creep closer to the wedding day, that's when, the family dynamics come into play. You are now also juggling, all of your RSVPs and who's in the hotel block and where, who needs transportation to different places. And now your venue's reaching out and saying, we need COIs for all of your vendors. And now your vendors aren't being responsive because it's October and they're in busy season
Yeah.
and you are not their top priority at the moment like you were when they needed you to sign a
Yeah, because you're not
contract.
the next up
Right.
wedding for a lot of them.
You have, all of your bridesmaids, all of your groomsmen, whomever, they need to get their outfits. Everyone's in alterations. Again, venues like, how many tables do you want? Do your centerpieces line up? What size linens do you need? Do you have enough place settings ordered? Do we have overages done? Where's your schedule for the day? Photo and video are arguing because their timelines don't line up. Now you just found out that your hair and makeup team only has 2 hours to get everybody ready based on when your photographer wants to start, but we also don't have your flowers on site for you to do your solo pictures yet. Do you see how this can start to feel overwhelming?
You're making me feel overwhelmed and
There you
I'm
go.
already married.
That's literally what's going to happen
Yeah.
inside of the couple's head when they are being hit from 15 different directions and they're like, I've never put this together
And
before.
and imagine, just to give you another little plug, imagine you're the bride, you're sitting there getting your hair and makeup done, and all of this is hitting you in that moment,
Hmm.
as opposed to like, you know, a week before, 2 weeks before. You could literally be sitting in the chair and then getting all of what you just said fed to you. Like, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah. And listen, some people don't care. And if you are that human, I applaud you because I don't have that level of chill. Um, but I think it's also, it's that expectation of what do you want to take on and how do you want it to feel,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing this one time, do you want to feel stressed out? Do you want your mom to feel stressed out?
Yeah.
Do you want, everybody to have to work on your wedding day? Or do you want to spend all of this money and time and actually enjoy the day that you've planned?
Yeah.
And that's what your planner does. It's not just coming in and setting up and breaking down. It is the peace of mind throughout the process and being the one that's going to handle all of the problems. We've had vendors, not our recommended vendors, but vendors cancel the morning of the wedding. Benefit of having a big team is I have 10 other people who get on the horn and start
Like, hey,
making
can you
phone
come?
calls,
Yeah.
and we have always been able to replace people. Your mom's not going to know how to do that, right? Like
Yeah.
she just doesn't have the contacts to do that. The venue
And even
coordinator
if she did,
is
like, she shouldn't be worrying about
she
that.
shouldn't be worrying about it,
Yeah.
but also the vendors aren't going to be answering the phone. And venue coordinators, I'm going to say this loosely because it's not all, most aren't on site when that happens. They're certainly not in a hotel. If you're off site getting ready somewhere, they're
Yeah.
not at your church. You're a sitting duck if you don't have someone who is your personal advocate on your wedding day.
For sure. Uh, how do you help couples? Maybe they have a super strong vision or an idea of what they want. Maybe they don't, but how do you help them kind of like work through that process and refine to kind of you probably want them to have a day that's special to them.
Yeah.
But how are you helping them like refine that?
So all kind of depends. Based on package as well. So, like partial planning, full service, we're going to be involved
Yeah.
in all of those discussions. We will do a full design process with clients where we start, from the big picture of just tell me your dream aesthetic. What do you like? Those type of things, down to the individual. This is exactly a mock up of a menu card. This is the napkin ring. This is the linen we're selecting. All that stuff. Um, but a lot of it too is working through not only what you like, but how does it work in your venue? How's it going to work with your budget? How's it going to work with the vendors that you've hired? Because stylistically, everybody's a little bit different. Um, and what's even available from a supply standpoint that
Yeah.
you're looking for. Um, so we look at it holistically and help people narrow down, and also have the conversations of is this something that you like right now? Or is this something that you're still going to like 18 months from now when we get to your wedding day, when you've seen it play out on Pinterest 400 times over?
Yeah. I think it's so challenging too, like you said, with the social media side of things, because you see, I mean, if without it, they might think of four different ideas of what they could have in that
Hmm.
like broad picture. With the internet, it's like unlimited.
Yeah.
And you could literally put stuff into ChatGPT like, I like this and that and this and that and this and that. What should my stuff be? And it's just like there's just so many options
Yeah. It can be very overwhelming.
for sure.
Yeah. Very overwhelming. And it's also, I think, too, visually, and then, you know, everyone's going to have a different interpretation of the words that you say to them. If you
Yeah.
describe your wedding as elegant, romantic, whimsical, what that means to one person is going to be totally different than what it means to the next. So, if anyone is trying to kind of go down that design road on their own, I would say have very clear visual as well as a written description. So, we put in all of our design decks, and don't show somebody 35 pictures of something.
Mm.
I need 3,
Okay.
because that's going to narrow a vision and not leave things open to interpretation, because nobody can see what's in here,
Yeah.
of what you're seeing.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great advice. It's really fun to see how you're able to like take the vision, run with it, mold it, and shape it into like a unique day for the couples that you get to work with. And I'd imagine that like they're just so different across the
Yeah.
board. You end up working with a ton of different vendors. It sounds like often they're a part of the team in the sense that like they work the same weddings with you um, you know, throughout the season. But there's still like a unique pairing of all of those different vendors that are together for that specific wedding day. Um, how are you like keeping everyone on the same page? How are you keeping everything moving and running smoothly and just like there's got to be different personalities and all of that
Yeah.
too.
All of my planners definitely have different personalities, but I think the one thing that I lead with every time we have a group meeting, we do team trainings every year. Like, we have really perfected the art of being the boss without being bossy.
Hmm.
We lead with kindness. I'm a goofball. So, like, if I'm working a wedding with you, I'm busting through those doors in the morning, like, sup, photographers? Like, we're having a grand old time. Like, grandma gets a day out.
Yeah.
Um, so
Grandma, they let you out?
they let me out. Um, some of my other planners are a little bit more like locked in,
Yeah,
until ceremony's over. Um, but it's just about, I don't want to micromanage people. I don't want to babysit you. You're a vendor being paid to show up and do your job.
you're also an adult.
Yeah. As long as you're doing that, we're good. I will give you the shirt off my back. It might make it awkward, but I would do that at a wedding
Yeah,
if I had to, if it's ultimately going to make the couple's day better.
for sure.
I believe that, if professionals have been hired, we need to step back and let them do their job. My planners know we stay in our lane. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to make sure that my timeline, we got milestone moments we need to hit, right?
Yeah.
And if something goes chaotic, which often happens on a wedding day, right? They're not perfect. We sell this idea of perfect, but They're not perfect. Um, you figure out how to pivot and make it work by working together.
Yeah.
Um, and most times, everybody else that's there feels the same way. So it can be really easy. And I love that we have our tried and true OGs that, we've known for a decade. But I also love that we get to meet new vendors every year and kind of add people into the group. Because it's really just about assembling, a great team who's amazing at their jobs, who really want to be there for the couple on their
Yeah.
wedding day.
Yeah. There's been plenty of times where I'm like, "Dude, I know it can get overwhelming, and if you do enough weddings, it can feel if you're a vendor, you can feel like, "Okay, gotta do another one."
Mhm.
But it's like once you're there, you can lock in, just enjoy whatever your job is there for the couple. I It's just gonna be a better experience, and you're gonna be more fun to work with, honestly.
Yeah.
I wanna crack open the can and talk about money,
Ah,
if you're cool with that.
yeah.
Um, it's kind of this like weird taboo. We don't really talk about it, or it's like, do you put your pricing on your website? Do you not put your pricing on your website? Like, just give me your thoughts on pricing and like what should vendors be doing to help couples with their pricing. Give me your thoughts, and
Yeah.
we'll kind of like dive in from there.
I know that, there's schools of thought on both sides. I can tell you from a planner perspective, if I don't know you as a vendor, but I'm going out and doing research in a certain area. We get booked all over the place. So if I'm looking in, North Carolina for a photographer that has a certain style, aesthetic, whatever, and I go to your website, unless you are a slam dunk, perfect fit, couldn't imagine going anywhere else. If you don't have pricing, I'm bouncing. I'm moving on because there's going to be 10 others just like you that do have
Interesting.
pricing on their website that I can very quickly and easily narrow down the scope of the job that I'm doing for my client. And I'm still going to find them somebody amazing. I'm not going to waste their time, my time, jumping through hoops, to try to find something unless you're a slam dunk. Um, that's why I said the market is saturated. There's room for everybody, but we have to make it easy to book us.
Yeah.
I think I've found really as you go up in budget level, when we're looking into like luxury, ultra luxury, we're not going to see a lot of pricing on those websites. It's just kind of how the market works at that point. And a lot of it is percentage based or it's all so custom that it's really hard to put a price. For anybody else, I feel like even a starting price is insanely helpful
Right.
to planners, to couples, give them the benchmark that we're jumping off from. Give a range. My website, I have a range. For each of the three major planning packages, there's a range so that you at least know, is this worth your time to
Yeah.
inquire with us? If we're in your ballpark or if we're not. Um, so I think it's helpful for people and also for vendors. It's like it doesn't lock you into anything.
Yeah.
It still gives you if somebody wants something that's really custom, you can still customize and charge what you need to charge. If you have to travel or, whatever, charge what you need to
I
charge.
think the biggest point for little or no pricing is the idea of like not explaining the value, but trying to get across the value of your service or product. But it sounds like from what you're saying, and even I'm agreeing with it too, is like that's good. And I think it's helpful to explain the value to couples, specifically for video. Like couples are kind of like, we have a little bit of extra. Let's try to find a videographer. Some couples are like gung ho about it. But if you're able to make it at all easier by putting something out there, it seems like
Yeah.
that might be the move.
And I would challenge vendors on two different schools of thought here. And this is me putting on my mentor vendor coaching hat because I do that too. Um, one is your website is your storefront. If you are not conveying your value enough through what the couple is seeing on there, having your pricing or not having your pricing is not
It's
going to
not
make
gonna
a
matter.
difference.
Interesting.
You need to convey that value anyway. And two, I would say, are you leaving pricing off of your website because you're scared you're not going to get leads? Because I think at the
Also
end of the
interesting.
day,
Yeah.
sometimes it's that, right? You just want to see what you can get in because you
And
want to
try to
see if
like
you can flip
convert
them,
it. Yeah.
convert it into something. Um, working with 170 couples a year, I can tell you it's not all that often that if somebody has a $1,500 budget, you're going to bring them up to your $6,000 price tag.
Yeah.
So you might as well just, you know,
Let them know
let
before.
let the leads come in that are actually wanting, qualified. I would say that loosely, um, to spend that much on your service because there's a vendor for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
There are still planners charging $250. There are planners charging 4 times what I charge.
Yeah.
You're gonna find the right fit. I just think we need to make our couples' lives easier.
Yeah, and to your point, there's going to probably be 10 or more of each like kind of budget range too. And
Hmm.
so if you can narrow yourself into the actual budget that you have for that vendor category, your life's going to be a lot easier, probably be on a lot less calls. Because I would still say, even if there is pricing or whatever there might be on the website, like you still want to get on a call, find out who they are, see their personality
Yep.
and everything like that. But that's really interesting, those two takes that you had, because I feel like it is nice to see the inquiries come in as a vendor. It's nice to see the inquiries come in, but if they're all going to be low budget, what's the point?
Yeah.
So how are you helping couples figure out, and maybe it's just like advice for those that are listening now, like what's the best advice you have for them to figure out what their budget is and figure out like how do we spend it in a way that fits us best?
Don't believe anything you read on the internet. That's the first one. Every time I see those that are like, oh, the average, there's no average anything,
Yeah,
right? Like they're giving you this number with zero detail.
and no context.
Yeah, nothing. You
Yeah,
don't know if it was 30 people in someone's backyard, which, by the way, backyard weddings are not necessarily cheaper, or it's a 100-person wedding at a venue. Are you in downtown Philadelphia? Are we in Key West, Florida? Are
yeah,
we planning? It is wild to me, and those numbers aren't real. But those numbers are, I think, what couples start to base their planning off of, and then they end up so disappointed. We joke internally on our team that we are like the professional buzzkill because we're the ones that the couples come to us and tell us the hopes and dreams and dollar amounts,
yeah,
and we have to tell you that it's not realistic.
yeah.
And
You are
sometimes
probably the buzzkill for sure. Yeah,
it is, and sometimes it wins us business because people are like, "Damn, you are the first person to actually be honest."
yeah,
And other times, people, I mean, they want the wool pulled over their eyes. We're not believing it until they have to.
yeah. It's
Um,
it's so tough because it's like you have to almost figure out a big number, like the top number,
yep.
and then you're trying to fit the stuff that you have maybe already like kind of looked up then, or maybe you're starting to search.
People go venue poor all the time because they jump into the venue and I'm like, You have a $20,000 budget, but you spent 10 grand on your venue. The math doesn't math. Even girl math can't math that."
Yeah,
Um,
because you're only going to use it once. So.
right. But it's like,
That
it,
that's such a good take. You can be venue poor.
yeah, 100%. Because people think, oh, I need to get into my venue. It's going to be my biggest cost. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. A band is going to run you more than most of the venues that you're going to
Oh
look at,
gosh,
which
I
is
wanted a
wild.
band so bad,
Yeah,
but then I looked at the cost and I was like, it's
it's
just not going to work.
it's crazy.
But I think it's good to have that. Like, as much as I would have loved to have a live band, I don't think my wife Christina cared too much on that topic. But as much as I wanted a live band, I looked into it. We knew what we were trying to spend, roughly, and it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that, again, couples can do is come up with that sort of drop dead number. And I'll say that to people, especially, sometimes we have parents who are paying and they're like, oh, we
Whatever.
don't know. We're just going to see what it costs. And I'll throw out a number. I'm like, $100,000. And I just see what the reaction is. And you don't even have to say it out loud. I can immediately see on your face that that was too high,
Yeah.
Um, give me the drop dead number and then let's work backwards from that because there's also so many little things. Are you priorities? Do we want lush, huge, lavish floral? Great. You might not be able to have the band. Is a videographer a non-negotiable for you? Great. We might be pulling back, some of the hors d'oeuvres or the bar options on this side if we need to make that fit. Or we have to look at increasing the budget, or who can we cut from your guest count? There's ways to be creative
Yeah.
and get what people want most times. But unless the money is truly unlimited, you have to be prepared for some sort of a concession in there. But there's not one, blog post, article from, whatever major publication, online calculator. There's nothing that you can plug your individual wedding budget into that's going to give you realistic, accurate numbers for the wedding you see in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, I could not agree more because there's just so much that goes into what you see in your head, but also what you're seeing online. It's like you see the lush florals and you're like, "Oh, I could probably do that for a couple thousand bucks." It's like, times
hmm
10.
Yeah. Or, I mean, a lot of times the venue is the driver of a lot of those extra costs that, again, couples haven't done this before. So
Mm,
they don't know. You want to book a beautiful museum as your wedding venue. That museum doesn't open to vendors until they close for the day. And then you all have an assigned dock time. So now, your lush florals have to all be brought in, inspected, because you can't bring, depending on the museum or the arboretum or whatever you're going into, we have to
yeah.
do personal inspections at the docks of all of the floral coming in because you can't introduce bugs into the space. Nobody thinks of that. Um, that all now has to be done in a 2-hour time frame. So guess what just took, your $10,000 floral bill to a $15,000 floral bill is labor
Yeah.
and staffing. All those little parts and pieces that, again, from the beginning, I'm going to look at and go, oh, you're going to have to supplement hair and makeup teams because we only have a 3-hour window. You're going to have to supplement floral because, we don't have a lot of setup time. Those are the different things that you're not going to find on a checklist somewhere.
Yeah. Or even like you said, if you put all that information in, you're not going to get a good, straightforward answer that's going to be specific to your venue, your location, and all of the stuff that you have
Yeah.
going on.
And no wonder couples are overwhelmed
Yeah.
and confused and it feels, crazy because it is.
Yeah, it
Because it
is.
is.
And I think we can do a little bit to help, at least from our kind of different categories. You're kind of in a more overarching kind of category, but I'm always like, just let me know. Like, if you have questions that aren't video related and you just want to throw it at someone, like I'm here. Just throw it at me.
Yeah.
And if I can help, I can help. But do you have any tips for couples to just try to like decrease that stress, decrease the overwhelm that they might experience when they're planning their wedding?
Yeah. Um, Slow is smooth is something that I often say is it's okay to pause in your planning, do some research, take it slow. I think sometimes people get engaged and they want to jump into touring venues right away. You got to talk budget first. We need to know who's contributing and how much they're contributing. Then we need to, talk about your guest count. That's going to be a huge driver of how much you're spending, where you can book, all the things that you need. Then, we start to piece out other priorities, what's really important. We tour venues. We start to compare all in costs, the venue and the catering, the venue and where your rentals are coming from, those different parts and pieces. Nothing says that you have to book them all individually. You can develop a short list in your major vendor categories and start playing with those numbers. Okay, if we book this venue, then we really can't get the photographer, that we
Mm.
wanted. But if we go with this venue, we can get the photographer and the band that we wanted. Um,
So you can kind of like puzzle piece it almost
yes.
once you have the big
Yeah,
number.
there's no rush.
Yeah.
There's no rush to it. And I think sometimes again it's like that initial excitement or you don't want to lose a date, which I get. I get that that's a big thing, but that is a ripple effect for the rest of your wedding and the rest of, your budget specifically.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. If you had one final like parting wisdom for the like young budding planner that's like
Oh.
just getting
Oh.
started, like they maybe have done their friend's wedding or maybe they're going to do like their sister's wedding or something, what would be the advice for them?
It's going to get harder before it gets easier. I think is I'm the realistic grandma. Um, you know, the career path is never going to feel easy. And I think if it does start to feel easy, then you have to wonder, are you challenging yourself? And are you trying to take your career to another level? It's a really hard industry to be in, but just setting the expectation that some days you are going to feel like you are getting kicked in the teeth, and other days you are going to feel like you just, climbed a mountain. Um, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody at the end of the day is ever going to look back and regret it.
Oh, for
Just hang
sure.
in there.
Yeah.
Hang in. It's going to be hard. And people are going to yell at you. And it's okay. It's not you. It's a them problem. It's not a you problem. I've been yelled at so many times.
That's why you're so chill.
Yeah, I am. I'm like,
Whatever.
haven't heard it before.
Yeah. Well, I have appreciated you being on, Taryn, and it's just been such a cool conversation, and you have like so much history and so much experience, and it's just been cool to like pick your brain, and I hope everyone listening has gotten as much as I've gotten out of this conversation. Where can people find and follow along with your company?
Yeah, we're on all the socials like everybody else. Instagram, probably the biggest for all of the behind the scenes, latest and greatest weddings. BlakeEvents.com, obviously, and biggest thing is we work absolutely anywhere. So no matter where you are listening to this podcast, we'll go there. We're going to Spain next year. That's really exciting. So yeah, take us wherever you're at. We'll have a great time.
Yeah, I love that. And thanks for all of your wisdom. And everyone tuning in, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast. And make sure if you're listening on YouTube, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're liking and subscribing, doing all the things. It helps tremendously if you guys could share. Even just leave us a review over on wherever you're listening to the podcast. Love to hear how you're liking these episodes. And we'll have plenty more episodes like this one, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Preferred List.